Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is that of Melissa Highsmith. It's kind of a more light-hearted one. No, not really actually. It ends well. It definitely ends well, but yeah, okay, just whatever. Melissa would basically go missing as a child, and yeah, it took 51 years to solve her case, so let's just jump right in. Melissa was born on the 6th of November in 1969 to mother Alta and father Jeffrey. They had actually been married a year before. They were 19 years old and Jeffrey was 18. And then after being married for an entire year, Melissa came along. They wanted to do their best for their daughter, and so at the time they were living in Fort Worth, but then they decided that they were going to move over to Illinois and raise Melissa there. Now, sadly, Jeffrey and Alta's relationship did begin to struggle. They ended up deciding that it would be best for everyone if they parted ways, which they did. Alta moved with Melissa back to Fort Worth, and Jeffrey stayed where he was. In the end, she ended up moving in with a relative who was called Carol, who had her own son as well. Now, the problem here was that Alta was now a single parent. She had to work, but she didn't have anyone else to rely on to look after her 2-year-old child. And so she was in a bit of a pickle. And I believe Jeffrey didn't send any money over to support Melissa either. So it was all on Alta. Oh, sorry, she was 1 year old, not 2. So what she decided to do was, because she was really struggling, she went to do the only thing that she could do. You've got to think that this is the 70s. Yeah, there's no mobile phones, there's no internet that you can just go and do a quick Google search of someone and try and find the references, the background history, everything like that. There's none of that. So Alta could do pretty much one thing, unless she knew somebody, a friend or whatever, that was able to take care of her child, and she would babysit a child and she would obviously pay them for it like a job. She could only do a couple of things, and one of those things was to put an advert out into the newspaper, which is what she did. She put out an advert asking for a babysitter for her little girl while she worked, and then somebody replied to that advert. At the time, Alta was working as a waitress, I believe. So this person answers the ad, and Alta wants to meet them. She arranges like a day, a time to try and meet this person, because obviously that is her child and this person is a stranger. She doesn't know them, and so she wants to get to know them a little bit, as much as she can, before she hands over her kid. But, you know, it's not a lot of time to do so either, because she desperately needed to work to support her family. So she's in a really stuck between like a rock and a hard place at this point. Anyway, she arranges this interview to occur, but she never arrived. And so Alta was really desperate. Like, you know, this person that was supposed to be looking after a kid didn't even turn up. She never got to meet her. But she did ring back later and said that she was called Ruth Johnson, and that she was very apologetic as to why she couldn't make the meeting, whatever. I don't know what she said exactly. But she still wanted to take on the job. She still wanted to look after Melissa. Alta was out of options. She didn't really know what else to do. I'm not entirely sure why Carol couldn't watch her. You know, I know she had a son of her own. Whether she worked or not, I have no idea. But that must have been a no-go, because otherwise Alta wouldn't have like sourced it out externally. So anyway, she's and ahhing as to whether to trust Ruth with her kid. But eventually she decides that, well, she's really doesn't feel like she has another choice, because she really needs to work. And so she arranges with Ruth to pick Melissa up the next day from the house. And this was the 23rd of August in 1971. So Melissa's like 2 at this point. Well, almost. So the next day, Alta's at work. The person shows up. Carol answers the door. Couldn't really give a good description of this woman. well, woman, because they weren't even sure if it was a man apparently, but was pretty well covered. Had like a scarf or something on, or maybe that's wrong, I might be making that up. Anyway, she was definitely wearing, she was definitely wearing white gloves. Now, people have wondered whether that was to try and conceal whether this person was a man or not leave DNA evidence behind or whatever, but this was the 70s, so who's thinking about DNA at that point? Because probably no one. Yeah. Anyway, she hands over Melissa, and this Ruth person says, do you want me to look after your kid as well? You know, her son. She realizes that she's got a son. I'll watch him as well if you want. And Carol's like, no, thank you. And off they go. Alta was at work, obviously. She returned home from work, and they'd arranged a specific time for her to return Melissa. That time came and went, 5 and 6. I don't know whether that was AM or PM. But yeah, that time came and went, and Melissa never came back. This Ruth person never brought her back. She didn't have Ruth's number or something. She didn't have a clue what this Ruth person looked like. She'd never met her. She didn't have many options, really. She asked Carol what she looked like. Carol couldn't really explain her either. So Alta did the only thing she could do at this point, which was ring the police and tell them that her daughter had been being looked after by a stranger and she never brought her back. So obviously she was a missing person at this point. The police, I mean, this is the 70s, but the police did something that really infuriates me, and they said, yeah, you can report her as missing until 24 hours. She's literally 2 years old. It's not like she's tottled off and ran away, is it? Come on, someone's taken her. And them 24 hours are crucial. She's just parking out of there and driving to God knows where, taking this baby with her. And the police are just sat on their hands doing jack squat. But there you go. So Alta was probably very upset and pissed off about that, but she didn't really have any choice to do anything. And so she waited 24 hours and then rang the police back again to report her child as missing again. And the police then acted upon it. Anyway, the police then launched a full investigation. Pretty much too late at that point, but there you go. They even brought in the FBI to follow every lead that they could. Tips, anything. They just followed everything and anything. Talking to the family, they spoke to Jeffrey, wondering whether the father had something to do with it. You know, he couldn't believe that it had happened either. Was devastated, shocked, and they ruled him out. They didn't think that he was a suspect, because a lot of, when children go missing, a lot of the time it is family members or people who know that person. But they quickly came to realize that whomever had taken Melissa was probably a stranger. Like, it was a stranger abduction. They'd seen the opportunity and gone for it. Either this person could not have children of their own, or that they wanted to, like, do an underground adoption thing where they would steal children, take that child to a potential person who couldn't have children of their own, and sell them on. So that happens. It happens all the time here as well. Here, I mean, not here, now. Like, all these years later, still happens. So yeah, them were the two things that they were thinking, but they weren't thinking that it was anyone within the family. Regardless of everything that they looked into and the investigation they launched, they found nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's probably because they waited so long, which is frustrating, but there you go. And what happened to Melissa would remain like a mystery for 51 years. Yeah. In the end, Alta and Jeffrey ended up getting back together at some point. They ended up starting their family over again. Obviously, I'm not saying Melissa isn't a part of that, but do you know what I mean? They began having children again. And they ended up having 4 more children together. They never told these children about Melissa until they were a bit older. And one of, I believe that there were 3 daughters and 1 son, I think. And the son was called Jeff. So Jeff, I feel like he was the youngest. But anyway, he started really looking into it. They all did. But Jeff was the one who was like, I want to find my sister. You know what I mean? So he made a Facebook page and he was doing all of these things, putting it out all over the internet, trying to spread the word with the news. And obviously we have the genealogy and the DNA websites now that store it all. So they were always looking into that. A lot of people did come forward and say that they thought they were Melissa. But sadly, it turned out that none of them ever were. But anyway, they'd given out their DNA and all of these sites and stuff, and they were just hoping that one day something would come up. One day they would have a match. They honestly believed that Melissa was still out there somewhere. You know, sometimes, as heartbreaking as it is, children are kidnapped and they are murdered, you know, and sometimes they do go off into these adoption agencies. Some of them are found underground, not obviously legit ones. Some of them are found, some of them never are. You just never know. There's so many missing children out there. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But yeah, these genealogy and things, they put the DNA on that and hoped for the best. And then eventually they found something. So this DNA was entered into the system. And basically they would have been, it came up to say that sort of Alta and Jeffrey, I believe at this point they'd split up again, I think, I'm not sure on that, but they were the grandparents of these children, okay? And they were on the DNA system, right? Now, the only way that that could happen, because it wasn't any of their children, the 4 children that they had after Melissa, was if Melissa was their mother. And so they was, like, astonished. So they dug into it more. They managed to get Melissa's contact details, and let's just say that obviously she didn't have the same name, Melissa. They found a Melanie Warden, and Jeffrey actually messaged her, I believe on Facebook. Walden, not Warden, sorry. Yeah, on Facebook, and can you imagine getting that message? It basically said, like, well, it told the story of Melissa, that she went missing as a 2-year-old, and he believes that Melanie is Melissa, his missing daughter of, at that point, 51 years. Melanie was like, she thought it was a scam, and who can blame her? Just, she couldn't even comprehend that that was anywhere near the truth. She was definitely not Melissa, and he sadly had the wrong person, which is basically what she replied. But then something must have niggled at her, because she started digging into it. And then she found out that Melissa had a birthmark on her back, and when she looked, well, she didn't need to look because she knows her own body. That's stupid. But yeah, she realised that the birthmark matched her birthmark, and so she started to wonder whether she really was Melissa. So she goes and speaks to the person that raised her, and the person that raised her, who we know nothing about because this information has never been released, basically said, yep, you're Melissa. I knew you was Melissa. I bought you off the streets for 500 quid. $500. And so, can you imagine the person, your mum, telling you that? Well, I couldn't. That's absolute crackers. But yeah, Melanie was definitely Melissa. So then she obviously got back in touch with Jeffrey, and she was finally, after all them years, reunited with her family. They took DNA to certainly confirm that she was Melissa, and it matched. She actually ended up changing her name from Melanie back to Melissa, and I don't blame her for that, because that was what she was originally supposed to be called. And this person who bought her off the streets never told her. She lived a hard life, apparently. You know, she had children of her own that was put up for adoption or taken into care or something. She did lead a hard life, which is really heartbreaking. She had to leave home early, all of this stuff. But at this point, that when they found each other back again, she was turning her life back around. She was happily married, you know. She was a really good place. And she found her family again. She found her mother and her father and all these siblings that she never even knew existed. They tried so hard for her, and they never ever gave up hope, and they finally found her, which is a message that they really wanted to, and me personally as well, really wanted to sort of put out to the world. You know, like, if you do have a missing child out there, you know, these miracles do happen, and it is possible. Not, it may be possible one day that it will happen to you, so just never give up hope. They obviously, the missing people's children exploited, that's not the name, but you know what I mean, for exploited and missing children, would do like the age progression of these children. They did it of Melissa, and they were just hoping that people would see these photos and say, well, I know someone that looks like her. You know, it's probably not going to be exactly like, because nobody can tell how people are going to grow up. It's just an estimate, but just similar even. And just anything like that could match these people up to these missing people. So You know, I really want to put that out there as well. Just in case any of you know any of these photos or know someone that looks similar to them, it actually could be them. And you think that's crazy, but it could be. So after all of these years, Alta and Jeffrey was finally able to get reunited with the little girl. They were so happy. Alta has been blaming herself for all of the time, because who wouldn't as a parent, you know? She was the one that had to go out and try and find childcare for her child because she had to work. And people have blamed her over the years as well. You know, it's not just Alta who's been torturing herself about it. But yeah, just amazing actually what happened in the end. It's so sad that they lost so much time from each other, but I'm so thankful that they were able to reunite, because it was just like such a joyous occasion. And that actually happened in November of 2022. So sort of just before Christmas, they got a Christmas miracle in a way. It literally happened last Christmas, after being missing from 71. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, I am so thankful that this case ended the way it did, because it was a happy ending eventually. Not what happened to Melissa, and not the life that she led, when it could have been so totally different. And can you imagine finding out that you're not the person you thought you were? Well, you still are that person, but like, you have a whole new family. You have a whole other family that were the ones that should have been your family, and brothers and sisters, and you had no idea about them. It's mind-boggling, but there you go. That is the end of this case. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Melissa Highsmith. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.